Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Wayne's World of Science and Technology. Today, we're going to look at Putin's latest, dropping missiles on the EU and UK. So why did he do it? A lot of people out there have come up with a lot of different reasons. I've got one that is maybe a little bit odder than most. Okay, let's look at this from Putin's point of view. Since 2014, Russia has been locked in a war with Ukraine. I know people are going to say 2022, but 2014 is when this really started, when the Russians took Crimea. Ever since then, the Russians have been locked in because they cannot give up Crimea. Remember that fake referendum they had? Yeah. So as far as they're concerned, legally they can't give it up, even though as far as legality is concerned in the Russian Federation, it doesn't mean much, but that's what they'll use as an excuse. Now, because they're locked in this war, and because they are unable to win it on the battlefield, and before anybody says, oh yeah, but the Russians are advancing, let me put it to you a different way. The second most powerful air force in the world was totally incapable of dominating the 15th most powerful air force. That is not a show of power. It's a show of complete weakness. It's also a show that global firepower is totally fucking unreliable, but hey, what the hell else is new? So we end up with a problem where Putin has no choice. He's got this war started. He can't stop it because to stop it, he'd have to give up something. And as far as he's concerned, he can't give up anything. As far as he's concerned, Ukraine is part of Russia, has always been part of Russia, and shall always be part of Russia. And he is not going to stop until he makes that happen. So why hit the embassy and why hit the the UK and EU compounds? Well, very simply. One of the things that has been going on in the background, which most Westerners aren't aware of, is that in Russia, they are 100% convinced, or at least a large proportion of them are, that they are fighting the entire collective West, and that's why they can't win in Ukraine. Doesn't matter that there's no Western troops on the ground there. As far as they're concerned, they're fighting the whole collective West. And as a matter of fact, they're always claiming that they are killing NATO troops there. And if you don't believe me, go take a stroll through Russian language Telegram or Russian language media, and you'll see that this comes up fairly often, especially on the opinion shows. So, Putin can't back down. He also can't win. Ukraine, on its own, is managing to hold, well, I say on its own, it's got support, yes, but Ukraine is the one doing all the fighting. They're managing to hold Russia back. Yeah, they're falling back in some places, but they're also advancing in others. And really, what was it, the UK Ministry of Defense did an estimate that it would take another 4 years to capture all of the Donbass. So, yeah, you can see why things are not going exactly well. And this puts Putin in a bind. His economy is now starting to suffer badly. Sanctions and the various tariffs that have been put in place have meant that Russian sales of fuels have gone down. The price of oil has dropped considerably since the Saudis decided to open the taps. And basically the stressors on the Russian system are so heavy right now that Putin is looking for a way out. But he can't stop fighting unless he has an excuse. That's where hitting the EU and UK compounds comes in. If he can get NATO to directly intervene, he's got an excuse for why he lost. And that, I think, is the whole point of these attacks. It wasn't to derail the peace process. The peace process is non-existent anyways. It was all down to trying to get a NATO response so that Russia has the ability to say, oh, we've been attacked by NATO. It's no wonder we lost. It was totally unfair. The entire collective West ganged up on us. That is an excuse that Putin could sell to his people. That is an excuse he could sell to the Chinese, for that matter, probably. But if the West sits back and basically ignores them, like they've mostly been doing, and this includes the attacks that hit Poland and the attacks that hit Romania, accidentally, supposedly, so I don't think Russian equipment is that inaccurate. And, you know, this is it. They're trying to draw a response. If they draw a response, they get to say, oh, we just couldn't win. The entire collective West was against us. It's so unfair. And surrender. If they can't draw a response, they've got to keep on fighting. And their ability to keep on fighting is getting weaker and weaker every day as Ukraine takes out more and more supply nodes, and especially the fuel infrastructure. Fuel prices in Russia right now are skyrocketing. So anyway, there's what I think is going on and why I think it's happened the way it has. It's going to be easy to see what the Western countries do. My personal take is that they are going to just sit back and give Russia the finger by not responding. And before you say, but it's horrible that they're not responding, just think, Putin wants a response. The worst thing we could give him would be that response. Anyways, that's it for now. Have a nice day, folks, and I'll talk to you again later.